The equities market is closing the month of January in the green. Analysts at Parthian Securities say the positive sentiment will continue as investors position in fundamentally sound companies that declare dividend ahead of the earnings release for the fourth quarter of this year. Oluwaseun Dosumnu, head of investment research at Parthian Partners, joins me now for more market updates. Thank you so much, Seun, for joining us on the show today. And it's earnings season. We are having quite a lot of reports coming in. Take us through the activities we saw within the equities market, how the year is starting up, and how this would also shape up the likely performance we'll see for the year 2023.
David, good to be here again. The market has actually been quite interesting this year. It's moving in line with the previous year's performances. Now, over the last 5 years, we've observed that the month of January has closed in the positive, except in 2019. And that was because 2019 was an election year, and we had foreign investors exit the market. But since the third quarter of 2019, when we've had the market largely driven by domestic players, we've seen that the narrative has changed. It's also good to see that historically, January has always closed in the positive, and 2023 is not going to be different from that pattern. One of the remarkable things that we have seen over the last couple of weeks has to do with the volume and value of transactions. We've seen that the volume and value of transactions have actually declined compared to last year. When it comes to the volume of transactions this year, it was about 91 billion compared to last year at 161 billion. The same for the value of transactions. The value of transactions has been about 4.4 billion units, while for last year was about 7.4 billion, which is about 40 or 43% lower compared to last year. So, and that is largely due to the fact that we've not had a catalyst to spur investors to come into our market. Last year, we had the listing of Boa Foods and also the additional listing of Airtel shares. This year, we didn't have that. Investors are just waiting to, have the Q4 numbers and the full year numbers coming. And a lot of people are excited about, the dividend declaration coming up that would most likely be announced in a very short period of time. So that has been driving investors into our market. One of the things that we're looking at for the month of February is the fact that the elections are here, and we've had mixed activities, mixed investor activities about the elections. Some investors are already planning to exit the market, while others are planning to still take positions, given that corporate numbers are good, and also the fact that the dividend that will be likely announced would also be good. Let's not also forget that inflation declined a bit. Decline marginally. However, inflation levels are still quite elevated. So investors will need to ensure that their return is positive. They make positive real return, factoring inflation. So we believe that this will actually determine the investor participation in the month of February. More importantly, February in the last 5 years has had a negative performance. February has only closed February has closed in the positive just twice in the last 5 years, and that is because we started to see that investors take profits. However, in the last election year, we observed that the month of February actually closed in the positive. Now, do we expect that same pattern this year? Right now it's still too early to make a call. We believe that activities will continue to swing between buyers and the sellers in the market.
And looking at the performance as well, sectoral performance, now we are seeing oil and gas, consumer goods traded in the green. But leaders of the chart, we've seen the banking industry leader charts. MTN is expected to also release its earnings report tomorrow and also have some interesting announcement for incentives and also shares as well for investors. So it's quite a mixed bag. But in terms of the play out of activities as well, we are expecting the elections to also shape up for the February 25th election. So investors are sitting on the fence. Local participation is likely going to be muted, as you've also had attributed earlier on, to what we will likely see in the month of February. But do you think there are any other surprises to look out for?
Right now, it's quite early to make any call. Like you mentioned, the elections are the front burner. That's the elephants in the room. Investors are going to be deciding whether or not they are willing to take on the risk of investing or taking positions in the market, given that elections are around the corner. And I mean, let me even backtrack again to the performance you talked about. I mean, the sector performance is largely skewed to the banking sector. The banking sector is the most was the best performing sector for the month of January, posting returns of 7.5%, followed by the consumer goods sector at 5.8, and the oil and gas sector at 5.4, followed by the insurance and industrial goods sector. Coming back to, the performance in the month of February, honestly, it's too early to make a call. But with the elections at the front burner, we expect investors to actually, we expect mixed activities actually, because some investors might actually, move their funds to safer havens with the anticipation that, there might be, post-elections issues. Some would remain in the markets given the fact that they are willing to take on more risk.
Exactly. Thank you so much for your time on the show today. It's been a pleasure speaking with you, Seun. That was Oluwaseun Dosumnu, Head of Investment Research at Parthian Securities.